The cold had teeth that morning. Wind slipped through every crack in the city of Renport, a place where glass towers touched the sky and steel skeletons rose in every direction. In the shadows of the gleaming skyline, however, nestled beneath the 14th Street Bridge, lived a man nobody noticed, at least, not anymore. His name was Jahari. Once a gardener in a town hundreds of miles away, he had come to Renport in search of work. What he found was unemployment, rising rent, and 1,000 locked doors. When his sister died and his meager savings vanished into hospital bills, Jahari ended up on the streets, stripped of his dignity, but not his soul. He built a small shelter from wooden pallets, tarps, and discarded plastic. The city ignored him. Most people passing overhead didn't see the man who cleaned himself with bottled water, shared scraps with pigeons, and spoke softly to the trees growing by the riverbank. That morning, Jahari wrapped his coat, threadbare but still warm, around his shoulders and prepared his usual breakfast, 2 stale rolls and half a banana. He placed the other half in a napkin and tucked it away for later. You never knew when hunger would bite. It was then that he heard something strange, a soft whimper, almost like a kitten. He followed the sound to the other side of the bridge. What he saw would change everything. She couldn't have been more than 6. Her clothes were thin and damp, her cheeks red with cold. She clutched a pink backpack, dirty and torn, like it was a lifeline. Her hair was tangled, and there was a small cut on her forehead. She looked up at Jahari with terrified eyes, ready to run. He didn't move. He simply knelt down slowly, palms open. "Are you lost?" he asked gently. She didn't speak but looked at him the way a wounded animal might. Finally, she nodded. "My name's Jahari," he said. "I'm not gonna hurt you. Are you hungry?" Her stomach answered before she did, a loud, painful growl. Jahari reached into his coat pocket and pulled out the napkin-wrapped banana. He offered it, and she took it hesitantly, eyes darting between his face and the bridge overhead. "Where's your mom or dad?" Jahari asked. She looked down and whispered, "Don't know." He didn't push further. Instead, he took off his coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. "We'll figure it out." Unbeknownst to Jahari, a black Bentley had stopped on the bridge above. Its engine idled quietly. The tinted window lowered a few inches. Inside sat Lucian Rothschild, billionaire philanthropist and CEO of Rothschild Industrial Group. He was on his way to a ribbon-cutting ceremony for a new tech campus when traffic brought his car to a halt. Lucian had noticed the little girl wandering earlier, then seen the homeless man approach. His first instinct had been suspicion, then concern. But when he watched Jahari give away his coat and food with no cameras, no audience, and no expectation, something shifted in him. The world outside Lucian's bubble was one of figures and forecasts, of efficiency and gains. He sat on boards that discussed poverty like a spreadsheet, solve the housing shortage, expand shelters, fund schools. Yet here was a man with nothing, offering everything. Lucian didn't say a word to his driver. He just watched. Jahari led the girl, whose name he eventually learned was Mira, back to his tiny shelter. He placed her near a salvaged camping heater and gave her socks from a plastic bag. He boiled water from a bottle and poured it into a cracked thermos with a tea bag he'd saved. "You're safe here," he said. "We'll get you help." It took most of the day to coax her story out. Mira had been living in a car with her mother. They'd been evicted months ago. Her mother left to find work the night before, and never came back. Jahari's heart ached. The city was cruel to the invisible ones. He wrapped her in blankets and hummed old songs from his childhood, ones his grandmother used to sing in Swahili. As the wind howled through the city, Mira finally slept, clutching his sleeve. The next morning, he carried her to a nearby soup kitchen that knew him by name. They called the authorities, and soon, a kind social worker arrived. Mira clung to Jahari as they placed her into a warm van. "You're my angel?" she whispered. He smiled, heartbreaking as the van drove away. 3 days later, Jahari was awoken by voices, many voices. He opened his eyes to find people with cameras, reporters, and a man in an expensive coat stepping carefully through the mud under the bridge. "Mr. Rothschild," a woman whispered urgently, "we have better places for this announcement." "No," Lucian replied. "This is where it happened." Jahari stood slowly, alarmed. Lucian walked toward him and extended a hand. "You don't know me, but I saw what you did." Jahari blinked. "Sir," Lucian motioned to the cameras to hold, "I watched from that bridge. You gave her warmth when the city gave her none. You treated her like a person. That's more than most do. I only did what was right. That's exactly why I'm here." Lucian invited Jahari to speak at a press conference later that week. Jahari was hesitant. He wasn't used to being seen, but agreed. For the first time, people listened to his story. When he spoke of kindness, struggle, and dignity, the room fell silent. Lucian was true to his word. Within a month, the Rothschild Foundation pledged $50 million to build modular, sustainable shelters across Renport. They launched the Jahari Project, focused on uplifting the unhoused through employment programs, mental health services, and transitional housing. But that wasn't the most poetic turn. Lucian gave Jahari a job, not out of pity, but respect. He became a community outreach coordinator, helping people like himself find dignity again. Mira's mother was found in a hospital after being attacked, and Mira was placed back into her care after weeks of recovery. They visited Jahari every Sunday. The bridge, where he once slept, was transformed into a community garden named the Garden of Shelter, overseen by Jahari himself. He grew sunflowers. They reminded him of home. Years passed. Renport changed. The program expanded nationwide. Homelessness didn't vanish, but it no longer lived in silence. Jahari, once invisible, became a symbol, not of charity but of human worth. Lucian Rothschild stepped down from his company and became a full-time advocate. His wealth, once hoarded, now fueled change. In a rare interview, he said, "I built towers, but a man beneath a bridge showed me what it meant to build humanity." Jahari never asked for recognition. He remained humble, rooted like the trees he loved. On the 10th anniversary of the Jahari Project, Mira, now a bright teenager, spoke on stage. "He saved me," she said, her voice breaking. "When I was cold, alone, and invisible, he saw me. Not as a problem, but as a person. Because of him, I grew up with hope. Because of him, I believe in miracles." Jahari wiped a tear. As applause thundered, a single sunflower bloomed in the garden behind them, despite it being winter. Perhaps kindness, once planted, grows in any season. If this story touched your heart and made you reflect on the transformative power of small gestures, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more stories.